All right. Hello, everyone, and thank you all for joining us during the Lytham Partners Spring 2022 Investor Conference. My name is Robert Blum, Managing Partner of Lytham Partners. And during this presentation, we welcome MannKind, ticker symbol of MNKD on the NASDAQ, and their Chief Executive Officer, Michael Castagna. Today, I've asked Michael to briefly run through the slide presentation, and then we'll touch upon a few key topics in a Q&A session. Before I do turn it over, I want to remind everyone that the company is available for one-on-one meetings later this week. If you've not already signed up and would like to do so, please send me an email. That's bloom@lythampartners.com, or you can visit our website at lythampartners.com/virtual. Click on the one-on-one meeting request button and we'll look to get you taken care of. So with that said, let me turn the presentation over to Michael Castagna, Chief Executive Officer for MannKind. Michael, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Robert, and thank you for having us today. I appreciate it, and hope everyone's having a good Monday. So let's get these slides up. All right, good. For those who don't know MannKind, we've been around almost 30 years. This is 31 years technically this year. So let me just see. Here we are. So obviously, the forward-looking statements are a disclosure here. Things can change from this point forward. For those who don't know MannKind, we are headquartered technically in Danbury, Connecticut. We have manufacturing and R&D facilities there, and we have commercial operations for our diabetes business here in Westlake Village, California. Our Technosphere technology is a platform technology that can be used to deliver drugs through the lungs. We currently have it for an FDA-approved product called Afrezza, which is what you see on the second bullet, and we have a pipeline of assets based on FDKP technology. Afrezza was approved in the U.S. in 2014. It was launched by MannKind in 2017, and we've been able to continue to grow revenue since 2017. We got the product back from our old partner. We have a collaboration with United Therapeutics. We have a PDUFA date there for our second product. Hopefully, we see approved on the platform in May of 22. And financially, we closed the year with about $260 million in cash, and we had a $60 million loan available to us upon Tyvaso DPI approval. So now we have the financial flexibility to really bring our pipeline forward and continue to invest for the future growth that we see in front of us. When you look at the company over the last 5 years pre-COVID, we were really about building out our U.S. Afrezza infrastructure, about pipeline opportunities and moving the company from a manufacturing of inhaled insulin to a platform company with partnerships. And in that, you saw we did a deal with United Therapeutics, Receptor Life Sciences, and we sold off some old technology with Fosit. And we had about 125,000 prescriptions written with Afrezza. In 2020 to 2025, we really see the launch of Tyvaso DPI being a transformative event for the company, where we expect to get royalties and manufacturing revenue. And then there's additional indications there that are for COPD and IPF. These are two large diseases, in addition to what Tyvaso does today, which is treat pulmonary hypertension and interstitial lung disease. On the Afrezza side, we want to try to drive stronger uptake here in the U.S. We want to go into indication expansion for pediatrics. We believe that's how you change the diabetes standard of care. We continue to look and evaluate market opportunity outside the U.S. And this doesn't include anything in business development. So as we continue to look out in the market, there's lots of opportunities, especially in the coming years. As many companies are looking to streamline their operations or exit different businesses, we think there's opportunities that things will become available that we're not yet thinking about. And we did buy our first company in December of 2020 for clofazimine, which has turned out to be a great deal for patients and shareholders and ultimately our pipeline. And we have new collaborations we continue to look at as we've done several formulation opportunities last year that should turn into BD deals this year or next year if all goes well. And what we do is we look to have one pipeline opportunity launch per year starting in 2025, and that could be a new indication or a new molecule. And so we look to really have a good long-term 5 to 10 year sustainable compound growth trajectory. As we look at our technology, this chart on the right side really shows you deep lung penetration, how Technosphere works. It really gives you that consistent lung penetration across the entire lungs and gets the drug absorbed quickly into the blood if you want to. Some of it gets stuck in the back of the throat. That's that little white spot you see on the top right. But in general, this lung dispersion really gives you that fast PK that you need. And that's really what we focus our technology on, alleviating hypertension with United Therapeutics, bringing down high sugars if you have diabetes, anxiety if you're looking at the case of Receptor Life Sciences. It's really getting that fast peak onset and really driving down the effect of the treatment you're trying to solve, the disease you're trying to solve for. When we look at the pipeline, obviously the top part's our endocrine business with Afrezza. We already have it approved for the US. We're looking to launch in India at some point. We're doing a clinical trial there, and we're approved in Brazil. And then we have the pediatric trial, which is currently enrolling and looking really good. We hopefully will get a readout of that sometime in 2023, and that will be an expansion opportunity as we go forward here in the US. In the orphan lung space, we have 5 shots on goal. Tyvaso dry powder inhalation is currently at the FDA. We have clofazimine going with a nebulized version. That's in phase 1 right now. We'll be wrapping up here in Q2, and we'll hopefully be able to share some top-line results out of that in Q3. We don't expect much in terms of top-line results, meaning it's really a dose confirmatory. What we think our dose will be is a safe and tolerable, so there's not an efficacy component here, but it'll confirm some of our current understanding in humans. The Nintedanib is for idiopathic pulmonary fibrosis. This is a new one we just revealed. We've been working on for a couple of years, and now we're moving this into animal models. This is a really large opportunity I'll talk about in a second. And then we have 2 other ones, DNase alpha for cystic fibrosis. That's currently a nebulized formulation of something called Pulmozyme. We think we can make a dry powder version just like Tyvaso DPI is moving a market from a nebulized to a more convenient dry powder and changing people's lives. And then we have another molecule I'm not going to talk about much today. That's 501. It's a TGF-beta ALK5 inhibitor. This is a known pathway to inhibit fibrosis, and the biggest challenge has been getting the right dose and toxicity profile of these molecules. And we think we have something that, if it keeps going and we don't see any major side effects, this is going to be a great opportunity to help patients suffering from IPF. For those of you who don't know our Tyvaso product, this was dry powder version. United Therapeutics made a nebulizer. We had created a dry powder and licensed that out in 2018 to United. These were their top-line results on the BREEZE study. What I like about it is it shows you in the first 3-week switch, which is the primary objective, 96% of patients completed the treatment phase, no serious adverse events, and all those patients rolled over to the optional extension phase. And now we have data going on, 1 to 2 years, depending on how long the patient's been in that trial, where you can really see what dose they titrate to, how their 6-minute walk test is doing, and how their quality of life has been. So that's been a really good opportunity to help those patients in longer-term treatment than 3 weeks. And the secondary objectives really improved, which we didn't expect to take you off your nebulizer and show you that we can improve you in 3 weeks in terms of 6-minute walk test, overall satisfaction, and PROs. So we really showed an improvement in somebody's life in the first 3 weeks of treatment, which is excellent. It really shows you how our technology can get deep into the lungs and hopefully make a difference for people suffering from PH. Just an update here, this is at the FDA. We were expecting an approval here in February, and unfortunately there was a citizen petition filed, and we had UT had to respond to that, and they weren't ready to fully read that response, and so that gave us a major amendment to May of 22. I know United Therapeutics is working through that with the FDA. We expect that will be resolved successfully, and hopefully we'll see approval here in May. Until we get to that finish line, we can't promise anything. MannKind itself is focused on ensuring commercial products available, and that we're also working on building out a larger manufacturing facility to handle the future indications we expect in terms of COPD and IPF if Tyvaso works in that population. So that's what we're focused on, is training our people, getting them up to speed, and being able to go to 24/7 operation at commercial scale. What does this mean for MannKind shareholders? It's really that dark blue area. So you can see the dark blue on the left side is what they expect future Tyvaso revenue to be. And on the right side is the light blue, which is how much of that Tyvaso will become dry powder. And you can see a large majority of what people will be on in terms of Tyvaso formulation will be in the dry powder form of Tyvaso. So we're excited to be able to help out thousands of patients in the future, and looking forward that we get a double-digit royalty for MannKind as well as manufacturing revenue. So that's ultimately what's in it for our shareholders. Switching over to the next product in the pipeline is clofazimine. That's currently in phase 1. And what we're looking to do is take the low, medium, high doses here and confirm that same exposure in humans. And we'll do that over 7 days in a SAD/MAD study. And what you can see here is the MIC, which is the green line. After you stop dosing on the bottom left of that little gray area, we dose for 28 days. And then we followed people for 56 days afterwards. So a total period of about 3 months. And you can see after you're done dosing, clofazimine really stays in those lungs for another 2 months, which in most diseases you say is not a good thing. In this particular case, you want the drug levels there. It's where the infection is. It's hard to penetrate. And the drug is lipophilic, so it really gets absorbed into the lungs. And hopefully it's treating that infection for durability of effect. This is a long-term treatment disease. It's about 6 to 12 months of treatment typically. And so we're hoping to dose somebody, take some time off, dose them again, and look to dose in a less frequent fashion than current what they go through today, with hopefully improved results and low levels of resistance. And then the next drug I talked about was OFEV. We're making a dry powder version for MannKind called nintedanib, and you can see OFEV is doing well and expected to continue to do well over the coming years. And this has a very high mortality rate. These drugs are very difficult to tolerate, and we're hoping being able to lower the dose directly into the lung will show a clinical benefit to patients. And so we're just running the animal models now this year, and this will quickly go into clinical humans in 2023. So super excited about the pipeline and what this means for shareholders and patients. For those of you who don't know Afrezza, this is our inhaled insulin. So everyone knows somebody that lives with diabetes. This product's been growing year over year. It's indicated for type 1 and type 2 diabetes, and you take it at the start of a meal. And it comes in 3 different strengths here, 4, 8, and 12. And basically, it's our FDKP, our novel excipient, plus human insulin and water. Those are the 3 ingredients. It's difficult to make, even though it seems simple on the surface. And this forms our technosphere particles for insulin, and they get deep into the lung. And what you really see is a fast uptake to really work quickly on someone's high sugars. People often ask, why do you continue to invest in Afrezza? And the reality is, after 100 years, it's really the only novel insulin we've seen outside of injectables get on the market and stay on the market, number one. And number two, despite all the adoption of technology, CGM and insulin pumps, outcomes have actually gotten worse over the last decade, and that's the gray versus orange bar, is A1Cs are going up. As you look at 2016 to 2018, these are the top diabetes centers in the country, T1D exchange. And on the right side, you can see 80% of people on insulin still are not at goal. So this has not changed fundamentally, because the number one problem is mealtime control. And if we're all using the same injectable insulin, don't expect a different outcome just because it's delivered to a pump or an injector pen. It's still the same insulin underlying the PK/PD. And that's fundamentally why Afrezza is different. And so we're hoping to be able to show some positive results in a couple of things we're doing this year. Number one, the PEAT study. And number two, we're actually doing an insulin pump switch trial, or adding Afrezza on top of an insulin pump to show you better efficacy, hopefully, with that combination. And number one thing we just did recently was showing that the labeled dose, which is dose 1 on this chart, versus the new dosing regimen we're using, really shows a dramatic difference in postprandial control. And that's about 50 milligrams per deciliter in the first 2 hours. And if we were to do that consistently over a trial, that would be about a 0.5 to 0.88% improvement in A1C. And what that means is that's basically a new drug, and all you did was switch from injectable to inhaled, and you got that much more improvement in your A1C. So we're hoping the new dosing that we've narrowed down now will be used in our future trials to be able to show you that this drug is as good, if not superior, to the standard of care. This is the PEACH trial, just showing you it goes head-to-head against the multiple daily injections. And at 6 months, everybody will switch over and get Afrezza. So for a 1-year trial, primary endpoint is 26 weeks. And we look back from 2017, when we just got back Afrezza, we consistently grown the company year over year, despite COVID creating many headwinds for many companies. We still grew 60% from 2019 through 2021. And when we look at over the next decade, you see Afrezza as the base, Afrezza Pediatrics as additional opportunity, Tyvaso DPI, royalties, manufacturing, pipeline, and additional collaborations. So we see a multitude of opportunities to continue to get exponential revenue growth over the next 5 and 10 years. So super excited. We're right at the cusp of change, and getting our second product at the FDA approved, hopefully here in May. And once we get there, we'll be able to show you those next 2 stacked bars. Thank you for there. I'm going to turn it over to you, Robert, to bring us home.
Perfect. Thank you for that, Michael. Yeah, let's kind of hit on a couple of topics there. Some you touched upon. I'll see if you can add some color if possible. But first off, on Tyvaso DPI, ahead of the expected FDA decision here in May, any additional color you can provide on the status of the the FDA major amendment review and the expected decision here in May?
I think UT's working through the questions that the FDA had. I haven't seen anything else major. I mean, this is UT's responsibility, so it's hard for us to weigh in on the day-to-day interaction with the FDA. But we've not heard anything else major come in or think anything's going to shift that date at this point. So we're just waiting on kind of that response from the FDA and any resolution to questions that they may have. But otherwise, I think things are progressing as expected, and hopefully we'll see our ability to help patients in May.
All right, and what could be the implications, if any, to possibly the label and your thoughts? Should there not be a clean label there?
Yeah, I think the citizens petition was focused on FDKP and some issues around bronchospasm. I don't think I think we have enough evidence on how we've used FDKP that we think it's a safe and novel excipient. It's been used in over 3,000 patients across all of our trials. Remember, the majority of the powder is FDKP and Afrezza as well as Tyvaso. So that's our novel excipient. And so we feel very confident it is a safe and effective novel excipient. We're using our entire pipeline. And so for us, it's about getting this to patients and addressing any concerns the FDA may have. But ultimately, that's fundamentally a citizen's petition. Does the FDA want to add a warning? Do they do anything major? I don't know. I mean, I think the data on the trial of Breeze showed that in the population we studied, it was safe and effective with no major safety findings. So we feel good about the data set backing Tyvaso DPI. We have hundreds of other patients that we've studied FDKP by itself in with no major issues. So I think the data will hold up to FDA satisfaction, but until we get across that finish line, I don't want to speculate. Do we get both indications? Do we not have a warning? Do we have a warning? I mean, I don't. I think a lot of the issues are specific to Afrezza that were highlighted in the citizens petition, and Afrezza has the appropriate label warnings already. So,
okay. From production standpoint, is there sufficient production to support a launch by the summer of 2022 here?
Yeah, I mean, the team is working hard to get ready for commercial launch. I think that's our responsibility to get there. We're at 24/7 shifts, and so it takes a few months to train everybody and work out all the kinks on new training, and all that's been happening. So I think by the time we get this approval, the longest lead time will be the package insert. So we just got to get the things from the FDA, and that allows us to go to print, and that allows us to get this to patients hopefully as quickly as possible.
Okay, let's transition here to Afrezza here. Zealand announced that it is refocusing its strategies and streamlining its commercial operations. What are the implications as it may relate to MannKind or just sort of the diabetes space in itself?
Yeah, I mean, I think what Zealand's struggling with is what a lot of companies are struggling with, that single product companies are often very difficult these days. Either, COVID slowed people down or your launch trajectories didn't go as expected. You got these wonderful technologies or platforms or pipelines, and you're trying to become a fully integrated commercial company, which it should be easier these days with all the outsourcing that happens, but it's actually quite hard to put all this together and sustain yourself. And I think Zealand's a great example where it's a phenomenal technology they have, an R&D platform, and their launch just didn't go as expected, and therefore they're exiting the commercialization of their assets, and they think they said a couple of days ago that they're looking to exit and hopefully find partners. So those are the types of things from a BD perspective we'll always look at as they become available. But I think it just goes to show you, being a single product company is very hard. And, MannKind's been able to get through that transition over the last 4 years. And now hopefully that establishment of all the commercial infrastructure is established, our ability to drop product 2, 3, and 4 into our platform will be great. And we just got to continue to find ways to fill those bags of the sales reps and expand our sales force capacity and depth of sales force. So we have about 85 reps right now out there, and they have capacity to take on other products. So when stuff like this pops up in the news, we'll always be open to those types of discussions.
Okay. You touched upon this a bit here, but maybe if you can expand it all, sort of the progress on some of the key commercial programs to further the Afrezza growth, and maybe remind us how that success will impact ultimately adoption and growth as a whole.
Yeah, I mean, I look, Afrezza is frustrating for all of us. We think we should be helping millions of patients. We're helping thousands, and I think that's what brings a lot of frustration for our shareholders and for our current employees. is we know the drug works. We see how many patients work here to take it. We see the results of people's stories we get every week. And unfortunately, in healthcare, it's not just about having a great drug that works. It's about working out the kinks of the insurance companies, the doctors' habits, the training network, all the other incentives that happen in the healthcare system. And I think we've overcome a lot of those. And now with COVID, that was the last one we had to deal with. And now that COVID hopefully is behind us, I think we'll continue to see spikes of COVID over the coming year. But I think our people are starting to get to a new normal, and they're able to start getting back in with customers. So I believe when you look at Afrezza, we've been able to grow it year after year after year consistently, despite either financial headwinds in the company or COVID the last 2 years. Now we look out, we got some new data sets coming we're working on. We got all of our clinical data published. We're really pushing doctors harder to say, hey, it's about time after this much time on the market, you got to try the drug. And I think that's the number one thing, Robert. We got to get more doctors trying the drug, and those doctors who have written it once or twice, get them to write it 5 or 10 times, like really show what this can do to help their patients. So I think Afrezza continues to have a nice long-term compound annual growth rate, but can we grow that faster is the real question there, and the team's working hard to figure that out this year.
Okay, all right. Let's, in the few minutes we have left here, sort of talk a bit about the pipeline, sort of the renewed focus on utilizing Technosphere tech to really address some of the orphan lung diseases. Sort of starting there, the novel excipient, the FTKP is the backbone, right, of the Technosphere dry powder technology. Why is it not a safety issue for other DPI pipeline assets? Maybe start there.
Yeah, I think when you look at FTKP as an excipient, we have used that safely in over 500 patients across 10 different studies with no bronchospasm. And that's kind of the question: does FTKP itself have any issues? We've not seen any evidence of that. When we looked at it in all of our COPD data that we've generated, we've not seen a bronchospasm in that population. We've actually been in discussions with FDA about why is this in the Afrezza label specifically. And because we got a lot of new people here who weren't here 10 years ago when some of this stuff happened. And so we're really looking at everything with a fresh set of eyes. But, I can never say never, but I would say we feel very good that, making these crystals in the way that we do can be delivered deep into the lungs at small particle size. And, I would say all, but the reality is if you were to take a dry powder and put in someone's lungs that has an bronchoactive reactive airway disease, they're going to react to pollen, they'll react to a Dunkin' Donuts, they'll react to a dry powder and a Afrezza. So sorry about that. So I think that's the same thing here is can we deliver a dose that's effective and safe without the risk of bronchospasm or minimal risk of bronchospasm? And I believe that our technology can be delivered that way, and our data will support that in our development programs. And just to cap that off, Robert, if we looked at people who smoked, for example, they still got their drug levels with our technology. So people forget, people that smoke cigarettes, even though their lungs are covered in tar, they still get nicotine. So you still get your drug delivered with our technology into your lungs, whether you smoke, you have COPD or asthma. What it's really about doing is removing any risk of safety. And I think that's really what we're trying to do, is make sure we study this in the right populations that we can show an effect.
Okay. You chat a little bit about this, but with clofazimine in phase 1, any additional comments you make on some of the next steps here in 2022, including the DPI version?
Yeah, I think first we're trying to do is get the dose down for phase 1 in the nebulized version. That's, getting this to market as quick as possible is our number one focus. And we think that nebulized is the way to go. And then once this dose starts to become fine-tuned over the phase 2 time period, I think we can quickly bridge to a dry powder. We've already made the dry powder version, so we know we can. It's just a question, do you need 1 cartridge or 2 cartridges or 3, or do we make a bigger cartridge somehow? So we're just not at that point yet. Let's get down the dose before we start guessing on the dry powder version. But otherwise, it looks really good so far. It's very tolerable. I think we're more than halfway through our second dosing cohort. Haven't had any issues yet, knock on wood here. But super excited to wrap that up, get the IND open for phase 2. This part, phase 1 study was done in Australia, so you don't need the IND open, but we'll be filing that this year, getting that opened here in the second half, so that we can start getting ready for the phase 2 trial. But at this point, we're fully going into phase 2. That's our focus. Phase 1 will wrap up. We'll get the clinical study report and get this into phase 2 as quickly as possible. We just had an advisory board this weekend with 10 of the top thought leaders, and it was really good to hear their perceptions of clofazimine, how much it's going to help, how this disease can progress in a different way because you bring in a new novel drug like this. So I think there's a huge opportunity in NTM to help these patients. There's only one drug approved by the FDA, and I think we have an opportunity to really shape that market. So I'm looking forward to getting this forward quickly.
All right. I know you mentioned in the presentation portion here, but anything you can sort of expand upon or care to expand upon with the development of TGF-beta for IPF, and anything else maybe investors should be looking at here in 2022?
Yeah, I would take a step back and say, there's idiopathic pulmonary fibrosis is a very difficult disease to treat, and it's littered with failure. We have 3 shots on goal, and I believe IPF will evolve into a combination treatment. And so whether it's Tyvaso DPI working, whether it's our nintedanib dry powder version, or it's the TGF-beta ALK5, that one's the highest risk. It's a new molecule. It's an enemy, so high risk, high reward, right? If that one works, it shows any real pathway, I think it's going to be a multi-billion-dollar opportunity. But it also has a lot of warts to get through over the coming years to show that it can do that, could be effective and safe. On the nintedanib, a lot of people ask, is it getting it into the lungs better, or is there a systemic circulatory effect in IPF? We believe that it's mostly getting it into the lungs, better penetration. It's going to show a better durability of effect with minimal side effects, hopefully. And that's really our focus here for nintedanib. And then for Tyvaso, that's in UT shop. Obviously, they would extend that for Tyvaso DPI. And once we learn more about that, we'd start to look and see, is there a way to formulate these in combinations? Because some will be once a day, some will be 2-3 times a day. And but these patients have nothing. 80% die within 5 years, and it's got a high mortality rate. How do we help extend their life? That's what this is all about. So.
Yeah.
Hopefully
I
we'll get there.
always sort of ask, which other assets in your portfolio are you most excited about? I know you've kind of touched upon it, but anything else you care to add there?
No, I think we have a lot of great things happening. I think you got Afrezza growing, you got Tyvaso on the cusp, but hopefully an FDA approval. You got clofazimine going into phase 2 next year. You got the IPF drugs moving down the road. We're going into animal models. So there's a lot here that all going on, all very positive. And we have the capital finally to do what we need to do to run the company. We continue to meet new investors every week, like your conference, to hopefully bring them into the fold so that they can share in the upside of us continue to progress. Because a lot of people want to know, where's the risk? And I said, we've gone through a lot of that risk. We got capital, we got a pipeline, we got partners. Things look really good from this point out, Robert. It's really an execution story. And a lot of my colleagues, unfortunately, are going to run out of money in the next year or two. And the markets are really tough to raise money right now. So we're in a good spot financially. We shored up our balance sheet last year, and we're just kind of in execution mode running the company.
Fantastic. All right, look, I think we've reached the end of the time. We'll leave it there. Michael, as always, thank you very much for the time. To anyone in the audience here, if you would again like to arrange a one-on-one meeting, please reach out to me, send me an email, bloom@lythampartners.com, or again, visit the website. You can click on the one-on-one meeting request button, and we'll look to get you taken care of. So we hope you enjoy the conference. Michael, again, thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you, Robert. Appreciate you having us.